Like I could have taken 60 million cash, walked away and not had any earn out, nothing. In hindsight, I recognize like selling the company would have been part of selling myself. And I didn't know what I was going to do after that, even with 65 million in cash in the bank after taxes, right? I just asked that question. I said, who am I really? Like who is Trevor?
Hi, I'm Tim Bratz, and every week I sit down with the top influential entrepreneurs in the country to discuss how to leave a true legacy in all things happiness, health, wealth, and wisdom. This is the Legacy Podcast. Hey y'all, Tim Bratz here. Welcome to the Legacy Podcast. Today I have one of my favorite people in the United States, Mr. Trevor Mauch, who has been a mentor of mine in business, since the early days. So I know 2007, 2008, I purchased something called Private Money Blueprint, which him and my buddy Patrick Riddle had put together. And I was one of their first students in raising private money. I took the private money course and I was like, oh man, this is pretty cool. And I ended up doing a deal and they interviewed me on one of their podcasts and kicked off an awesome relationship. And since then, my buddy Patrick, or our friend Patrick, has moved into more of the marketing and is seen as a world-class leader in the marketing and advertisement space and has an unbelievable business helping promote real estate educators now. Instead of doing his own education, he's helping them do a lot of that marketing stuff. And Trevor moved in a different direction of going from real estate investor into owning tech companies and all sorts of other businesses. So Trevor's the owner of Carrot.com, which puts websites and different support mechanisms in place for real estate investors. And so he's got this awesome inside look at the number of real estate professionals that are out there, the activity that's happening in the real estate industry over the past couple of years, and kind of what the outlook looks like for the next, let's say, a decade or so. And not only that, but Trevor's one of these people who's very, very stoic and understanding and reflective and visionary types, talking a lot about mindset and asking very productive, progressive questions to better design his life. So I want to dive into all that stuff. But Trevor, thank you so much for being here, buddy.
Dude, I'm pumped to be here, man. And like you said, a little bit ago, actually, your name came up not too long ago. I was chatting with somebody, can't remember who it was. I'm like, dude, I connected with Tim way back, like you, when I was just getting my start going. I remember seeing that picture, or it was a little video that you and Patrick had taken. I think it was at the doorstep of the first property, at least the first property that's
first one I ever bought.
Yeah, dude. And it's just so cool seeing how things go full circle and just seeing your growth over the years, man. So proud of you, and it's been a blast. But thank you.
I appreciate it. No, and likewise, it's so cool to watch all of us be on this journey. Yeah. And it's fun because you meet people at different mastermind groups. You really connect with certain folks, and other folks you're like, something, and then they end up spinning themselves out of the industry or going somewhere else. And then seeing the good guys like you and Patrick win, and all of us grow our businesses. And what does that look like? Who knows? There might be opportunities for you and I to do business together in the future, or me and Pat to do business together, or you guys coming back and doing some stuff together. So it's really, really funny. You never know the way that the path is going to be derived and where you're going to end up. So, but it's awesome just being able to share the stories and have that level of camaraderie and history together.
It is, dude.
So sure. Tell me a little bit about what, the past few years has looked like for you, what's going on right now, and kind of where you see yourself and Carrot going over the course of the next 3 to 5 years.
Dude, for sure. Yeah. So kind of bringing people up to speed on today, run a company, like you said, Carrot.com. We're a little over 50 full-time employees, based here in the States. And we work with about 6,000 real estate investors. And those are all across America, up into Canada. There's some in South Africa using Carrot to be able to get leads online and close deals. Awesome. And there's people in Australia and people in the UK. So pretty much in either.
Are they all American-based leads, or are they doing deals in their own countries too?
No, dude. Yeah, they're doing deals in their own countries, and which is pretty wild, because we started to get feature requests coming in saying, "Hey, our addresses are formatted differently down here in South Africa," or the phone number thing doesn't work on the form in South Africa. So as we started to see those come in more and more, they're able to do the same thing down there, which is really cool. That's awesome. There's an asset, right? A house that needs to be sold with some level of motivation, someone who's willing to buy it. And those people go to the internet oftentimes to find those solutions. So yeah, that's what we help people do. Like you mentioned, we help people get the highest performing website online to attract those best leads. And our clients are bringing in anywhere, between 600 to 900,000 leads a year, including the phone call leads at the top end of that. And over the years, man, it's been millions and millions and millions of real estate leads. I can't even tell you how many deal profits there are, but just from our estimates, because we don't have all their deals going through our system, it's north of $200 million in deal profits a year. So
Wow.
I don't know, dude. I would guess our clients are probably north of $1 billion in deal profits now over the last decade, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Heck yeah.
Congrats.
And then the other thing, dude, that kind of on the entrepreneur journey side of things. So we crossed over a decade into this business, and Tim, back when you and I first connected with Private Money Blueprint, I was on this cycle about every 2 to 4 years. I would have a new business, and I would get burnt out from my last one. And there's there's a thing now I call the 2-year burn and the 3-year turn and burn cycle. And we get really excited about starting a business, right? There's something we're usually running away from. It could be a job we don't like, an income ceiling that we want to blast through. It could be someone telling us that we can't do something and we're going to prove them wrong. But usually when we start the business, we're running away from something. And we've got this vision, right? We're a dreamer at that point. And then we find something work. And then we get about 2 to 3 years into that business, and we're kind of a little bit more in maintenance mode a little bit, right? We found some of the motions to make the revenue come in. We might have a few people working for us, but we're working a lot of hours. We haven't bought our time back. We talked about a little bit of that before we hit record, and that'd be a fun topic to dive into, is how and where can we and should we buy our time back as entrepreneurs. But then we start to get worn out. And about 3 years in, if the business is working, we now no longer have that motivation source behind us, chasing us, right? The thing that we're trying to move away from. And at this point is where a lot of entrepreneurs get distracted, right? We go, oh man, I'm looking for that. This business isn't filling me up anymore. This business isn't exciting the heck out of me anymore. Or it's getting hard now because we hit the next pain line and we don't know how to grow through it. And so then we get distracted. We start a new business. We become a coach or whatever the heck it is, without setting up the previous business with the right people, the right processes to grow without us. And we're just on this continual 3-year cycle of restarting, growing, getting burnout, getting distracted, restarting. And I was on that cycle for probably 6 to 7 years before I changed the way I thought about business. So the reason I say that, dude, is I never would have thought I would have ran a company for 10 years, the same one. But that's been a fun journey, learning how to reinvent the business, reinvent yourself within it over time.
I remember you saying that you didn't love real estate when early on, right? In 2008, 2009, 2010, when we first met. I don't know if you said it directly to me or you said it in a recording or something, but you're like, I don't love real estate, but I love what real estate can do. It's a tool, right, for me to go and pursue these other endeavors, these other dreams, these other goals. How has moving into these other different types of businesses done that? Are you still investing in real estate? How does somebody find what does fulfill them? And should they be in an industry that doesn't fill their cup?
Dude, this question, I love this question. So the direct one on what am I doing in real estate still? So I'm a buy and hold guy, always have been. I've never flipped or wholesaled a house myself, start to finish. I've been involved in a ton of deals as a partner. Been the marketing partner and then the on the ground guy. Then we split profits, ton of deals with that, especially in Louisville, Kentucky, with my partner there, Bill Hollis. I'm an active private lender. At any given time, I've got several $1 million on the streets, earning great returns, and that's a great way to earn some active income. And then here in Roseburg and elsewhere in Oregon, I own a couple small apartment buildings, I own some Airbnbs. And then here in Roseburg, what we've been doing is taking my profits from my active businesses, whether it's my software company, Carrot, or my private lending, and I'll put it into real estate. And I love the act of seeing and being able to transform real estate or transform a community. And so we have a few buildings downtown on this block that we're just one by one trying to take over the block, buy the building, renovate the spots. We're putting amazing apartments, loft apartments upstairs, retail downstairs. And there's been other investment happening downtown. So that's part of the thing that I do enjoy about real estate. Going, okay, can we take an area that I want to make better, and can we make a measurable impact on that area? Now,
Mm-hmm.
dude, these aren't great investments yet. Talk to me in 10 or 20 years,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
think they'll be great. They'll be paid off and they'll be worth millions of equity. Right now, they're more of a passion project than anything. But dude,
How has getting into, it's funny because a couple
yeah,
of years ago I was invited on a podcast with Alex Pardo, I think
yeah, yeah,
was it Alex? I think that's who I was talking to when your name
yep,
came up, by the way.
yeah,
Um, no, it was I can't remember. But anyways, it was like multifamily versus single
yep,
family. It was like going against different asset classes. And one of the guys in the single family side also had a software business.
mm,
And at the end of it, when we stopped recording, he goes, if you guys ever want to get into another debate, I'll put real estate against software any day of the
yeah,
week. And he's like, it's got all these other benefits.
hmm,
And I'm starting to see some of those benefits
yeah.
because I don't know if you know this, but I have my own property management software that's coming
Dude,
out.
I saw that, man. Yeah, heck
Yes.
yeah,
So we're really, really fired up about it, really excited about it.
yep,
And it'll be available end of Q2, early Q3 for the public.
cool,
And, uh, and I'm like running the numbers and playing
yep,
with some, and I didn't have to sign on any loans, right? And I don't have any
yep,
debt. And it's got the residual income and it's got
exactly,
exponential enterprise value growth.
yep,
And and I'm seeing this thing and I'm like, this is a very, very, very cool
mm,
vehicle to be in,
yeah,
right? Which was why it makes a lot of sense for venture capitalists. Everybody's looking for the tech
yep,
startups and the software startups on those sides. Oh, and at the same time, it doesn't have the tax benefits. It has many tax benefits, but
hmm,
not the robustness of tax benefits that I think
yeah,
holding real estate does. But I could see
yep.
the two of them together being a knockout punch, right?
Dude, they
How
they
how
work
has
amazing.
being in the software business really affected and improved, kind of your vision, your forecast for business and life?
Dude, 100%. So back when you and I met, the business that Patrick and I were running was what I would call a transactional business, right? We created products that we hoped were good and really served the market and served people well, and we hoped to attract people that shared values and we wanted to work with. But the problem was we did have to make a sale and then make another sale and then make another sale, and what happens, dude, is I didn't realize at the time, but we were on what I would now call like a hamster wheel, an income hamster wheel, where you've always got to go out there and then kill a new, beast to be able to feed the family. And while we could do it, right, we had the skills to do it. It's really stressful because when you're looking out 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, it's really, really hard to be able to forecast what your revenue and income is going to be 6 months out. It's not impossible. You got to get amazing systems in place to do that. But I remember Patrick and I, when we were working together, we were making great money. One month we'd make 180 grand. We'd split the profits, on that together. But then 3 months later, we would be splitting $14,000. And at the end of the year, our tax statement would look amazing, right? But it was always stressful every single month because we didn't
Mhm.
know where the next sale was going to come from, where the next leads were going to come from. We always had to hustle. You could never turn it off. And then the first time I ever really latched on to recurring revenue was actually, dude, completely analog, the opposite of software. It was a physical print newsletter. Because I was getting in the mail for years the Dan Kennedy No BS newsletter, and I would
Yeah.
pay the whatever it was a month. I can't remember what it was, $100 a month. And then I met a good friend of mine. He became a good friend named Ben Settle. He's an email copywriter. And he had at that time over 1,000 people paying $99 a month for a physical printed newsletter that came in your mailbox. He still does that today. Has like 1,500 people paying him $100 a month to teach him how to do email, which is the wildest thing, dude. He's probably one of the
Unreal.
best email copywriters. So we go, why don't we launch a newsletter? Because we could really use some recurring revenue. I had no clue how to make software at that time. And so we did. We completely just modeled Dan Kennedy's No BS newsletter. We ended up getting that up to probably $6,000 to $7,000 a month, 627, not 67. And while it wasn't a lot of money, it was amazing because it covered the bills. We're like, whoa, we know and we can predict because we can see a churn rate. We can
Mhm.
predict what our revenue is going to be a little bit better. And during that next 1 or 2 years, I just started to see a different world. My first introduction into software was with a guy named Chris Brisson. Do you know Chris? I
I
don't
know,
know.
Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Chris and I met at an event in 2010 called New Beginnings in Orlando, Florida. No, this would have been 2008. It was the first event of any kind I ever went to. And it was a week-long event put on by a guy named Rich Sheffrin. And we spent 2 days in a room with Rich, Jay Abraham, and just 20 others. Like, it was amazing. I had 2 days with Jay Abraham to learn marketing. We had, Frank Kern there, and like all the original guys, Jeff Walker.
Yeah.
And so I was just immersed into marketing. And this guy walks over, Chris, and he was starting to kind of toy with software. And he created this thing called Auto Teleseminar. And then he created another one called autowebinar.com, or he bought that. And he was kind of split with these multiple software companies that he was starting between Auto Teleseminar. We had the Auto Webinar idea, and he had this thing called callloop.com. It was a text message marketing service. Mm-hmm. And so as I was getting a little bit burnt out, I was in that 3-year turn and burn cycle with Private Money Blueprint, because I didn't realize we had hit that pain line, that next pain line. Things break at 3s and 10s in business. Okay. 100,000 things break, 300,000, a million, 3 million, 10 million, 30 million. Things break at every level. And I can walk through what breaks exactly and how to go through those. But the challenge is, when we come up against those spots, oftentimes business just gets harder. We don't know why. We're like, man, I got past this point, and I thought I figured it out and things were sailing. But then things started to slow down. Things started to get hard. Things came to a screeching halt, and I started to get burnt out, and I couldn't find my way out of it. And when you hit those pain lines and you can't see the path through, one of 3 things happens, right? We either settle. We go, oh man, I really liked my business when it was back here, mm-hmm. right? I look back how it was 2 years ago or whatever, and it makes a little bit less money, but man, I'd be happy in that because I know that side of the business. And we settle back to what's comfortable because we've mastered that part. We went through that pain line and solved it. Okay, or we sabotage. We go, man, we don't even think about it, but all the things that creates more opportunity, those phone calls, those emails, those text messages you're not answering back, those offers you're not making, whatever it is, that project you're not doing, because subconsciously, when you finish that project and more revenue comes in, it's going to create more problem and pain on the back end. And we subconsciously avoid it. We sabotage. Okay. And then things start to unravel, or if we're fortunate, we sell the business. If it's able, we go, man, if I could only sell this business, I would be out of the pain, right? We usually, and oftentimes we don't sell because it's the best time to sell. We sell because we just want out of the pain. And we think that is the best way out of the pain. So those are the 3 ways. And at that time, the business wasn't sellable, really, for any real multiple.
Yep.
I was probably self-sabotaging on some things, avoiding some things that would have grown the company. And I was like, man, let's just go back to how it was here, or I'm just going to find a new opportunity. And so that's then where I just went all in on the software. Patrick and I talked. I'm like, dude, I love you to death, man. And this is what I did, Tim. And I've done this with all my partnerships ever since, is I'm like, I love the individual. I don't want to have anything come between us. And I just told Patrick, I go, dude, I'm just ready for a new adventure. I love working with you. Give me a number and I'm not going to negotiate. I will say yes. Like, whatever the number is for my 50% of that company, which is the company that he's taken today that's crushing it, right? Doing 20 plus million a year. And he gave a number. It was lower than I thought it was going to be, but I just immediately said yes. And it was a fair number because he had to take over everything in the business at that point. So it was a real risk that he was taking on. And I just went, okay, cool. That chapter's done. Let me figure out the next thing. And I had this software thing in front of me. And then Chris and I, over the next 2 to 3 years, completely failed one software company. But then that's how I started to learn how to talk with engineers and things like that. And then a year after that, I started Carrot, while Chris then grew the text message marketing company, which is well into the 8 figures a year now. And I own a part of that as well. But dude, the recurring revenue side is what got me. So it started with the physical newsletter, seeing recurring payments come in. And then I created a requirement, dude. I go, I want to be able to predict my income 8 to 10 months out within a 5% variance. If I can do that, that seems like I can get freedom. That seems like I can hire ahead and feel confident that the revenue is going to be there to make that hire. That seems like I can actually have comfort knowing that there's a plan that we can build towards versus just survival in the month. And in that moment, dude, I created what I call my 5 non-negotiables. And I still have the exact same 5 non-negotiables today that I hold dear in business. And one of them is consistent, predictable income. I won't run a business if it doesn't have consistent, predictable income. So that's kind of the journey on the software side. And I'll finish it with this last thought and toss it back your way, is is same thing with software, dude. Like I'm not passionate about software. I'm not passionate about real estate. I think they're amazing tools. And the way I think about business, Tim, is at that first event that I went to and met Chris Brisson, Gary Vaynerchuk was doing his first ever paid speaking gig at that event. So I saw his first ever paid speaking gig. He got paid $5,000 to do it. It's before he published any of his books. And after that talk, Gary came out to the audience. People had left. He was the last one of the day. And me and Chris sat there with Gary for probably an hour and a half, just the three of us talking. And Gary was talking about his book, Crush It, coming up, right? Cash in with your passion. And in that moment, I'm like, dude, I was feeling bad about myself because my business wasn't built around my passion. And I felt, well, I can't be happy until I have a business that truly is built around something I'm passionate about. And I kind of put that pressure on myself for a few years to try to find that thing. And what I actually ended up discovering for myself, I think is applicable for most others, is you don't need to be passionate about the item in your business. I think your business and what you do should interest you. It should interest you. You should be interested in what you do. You should be eager to solve the problems you're solving in it. When you're doing that, you should give you energy, and it should interest you. It doesn't have to be your passion, though. I think business should fuel your passion, right? It should fuel your passion. It should enable you to do the things that you want to do, but it should interest you, number one. Number two, it should fund your lifestyle. So whatever that lifestyle is, including philanthropy and anything else, you should have a number attached to that you're wanting to do, and that business should fund it. That's its second job. And its third job is it should create some level of impact that makes you proud about the work you're doing. It should interest, your work should interest you. It doesn't have to be your passion. It should fund your lifestyle. You should have a number attached to it. And number three, you should be passionate about the impact that you're making, and you should be proud of it. So that's kind of where I've came up to today, man. I'll toss back your way, but
I love it, man. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, right? Yeah. This episode of the Legacy Podcast is brought to you by the Legacy Boardroom Mastermind. So our goal is to give as much free information away as humanly possible through all of our social media platforms and try to help people with their businesses, help people with their lives. We also have something for people who want more one-on-one attention, which is Legacy Boardroom. Legacy Boardroom is a board of directors for your business. If you are doing up to about $10 million a year in gross revenue, you're making some money, you got some good things happening, but maybe you can't afford a C-suite of executives, of a chief marketing officer, a chief operating officer, a chief investment officer, a chief human resources officer, and you need access to these fractional C-suite executives. That's what this was built for, at a fraction of the price of what you could find anywhere else in the marketplace. So it's my actual team who have built multiple 7 and 8 and 9-figure businesses and real estate portfolios that is available every single day of the week on these daily boardroom calls. So any questions that you have, you can hop on, ask questions about operations to my COO, ask questions about acquisitions to my CMO, ask questions about raising private money to my chief investment officer, or team building to my chief HR officer. So they're available for you 5 days a week. Any questions that you have, any hurdles that you're facing, anything that you need, these guys are available to help you break through any sort of barriers and take your business to the next level so that way you can build a business that is designed to feed your life and your lifestyle. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more, check out legacyboardroom.com. The designing of a business, I think, is a very powerful, and it gives you kind of like these pillars to work inside of. If it doesn't check these boxes, right, then I'm not going to pursue it. You've heard of ELF business, right? Easy, lucrative, and fun. Yeah. It's not easy, lucrative, and fun. Not interested in it, right?
Yep.
And yours are kind of similar in those, a little bit adjacent, but it's got to interest you. It's got to be fun, right? It's got to be lucrative, right?
Yep.
And then from an easy standpoint or, fulfillment standpoint, I had somebody asking me a couple of weeks ago, we were up at my mountain house and I had a bunch of my buddies from high school and college come up and they're like, what would you do if and when your software sells, goes public, like you get this big payday and what is it? I was like, I would still do the education. Like I really enjoy the education. For me, it's not a difficult business because I've been doing the business for so long. It's easy for me to then be able to convey these business concepts and make an introduction to a resource or somebody that I know. It's lucrative in that covers the bills, has recurring revenue, very
Yep.
predictable in that regard. But for me, it's most fun, right? It's fun to
Mm.
hang out with other entrepreneurs in a world where entrepreneurship can be very lonely. If you don't know that these
Dude.
networking and mastermind groups
Yep.
exist, man, it's tough. Like you feel like you're
Yep.
on an island all the time, and you don't have to, right?
Mm.
Realizing that this is available, and then you're hanging out with people who can also afford both in time and in money to go on awesome trips, to go and
Yep.
visit great locations, go and exert energy on all these amazing adventures.
Yeah.
And you've got this kind of ecosystem, and it checks 9 out of 10 boxes on the fulfillment side for
Yep.
me of being able to give back and make a bigger
Mm.
impact. And so I
Dude.
see how that has all come to fruition. One of the things you mentioned was predictable recurring revenue in a
Yep.
business. And I think when you said that, I thought back to um, John D. Rockefeller said something like he said that gamblers drill for oil, businessmen refine it.
Mm.
Meaning the
There we go.
gamblers would go out and try to drill holes all over the place, try to find oil. If they
Mm.
found it, great, they'd get rich, and then they'd bring it to him, he'd refine it, and then take it to the marketplace.
Yep.
If they drilled and they, went dry and they'd go completely broke, they went broke. He didn't
Yep.
go broke, right?
Mm.
He had consistency in revenue,
Mm.
consistency in business, and put himself between the end consumer and the person going out and drilling for oil. And so he
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
very much more predictability in his business. And then by having predictability, he could hire a better team. He knew what the revenue looked like. He knew what his expenses would look like, and could then predictably grow it and raise money and
Yep.
do all the things that you want from a good business. And so a lot of wisdom in that. And I think maybe sometimes early on in the business, people are scrambling and trying to drill for oil
Yeah.
and all that. But what I found is just the consistency over time without the risk of going broke, of just like compounding that
Yep.
is far more powerful.
Dude, and I think there is a time and place because there might be people on this podcast who are newer and they're just getting started, and there's a time and place, dude, where you got to drill for the oil, or what
I
what I
agree.
call what I call doing hamster wheel marketing or hamster wheel business. You know, when if everything got wiped out today, like right now today, and I had to start from scratch and I had to make $50,000 by the end of this month. I would probably be doing a bunch of what I would consider hamster wheel income things, right? I would come up with a product or a service. I'd be finding a way to get a hold of the people. I'd be making a bunch of phone calls or cold texts or cold emails, and I'd be selling. And I would sell my way out of my back against the wall. But as quickly as I can, man, I'm taking those profits and going, okay, great. Now what can I turn into? Where can I turn this into something that is recurring?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care what kind of business it is. My barber across the street, I was talking with him the other day, and his schedule's pretty booked all the time. But I'm going, man, if the dude goes out of town or whatever, like he's out that money. And I've seen barbers do a recurring revenue model. And I was talking with him like, have you ever thought of just charging me X amount a month and I get up to X amount of haircuts? And if I don't use those, I still pay that amount, but I'm guaranteed priority time in the calendar or whatever it is. I go, I would 100% do that, dude. And let's say he got 200 people to pay $50 a month or something like that. That's 10K a month or whatever the number is. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's 10K a month right there, right? And so I might be off in those numbers, but whatever it is,
That's right. That's 10,000. That's 10,000. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm going, man. Then your whole goal is, how do I just get 200 people to sign up for this $50 service? And that might take you 18 months to do so, to convert your clients over. But now you have peace, man. You have predictability. You have consistency. And that right there is worth so much, because when I think
Yep.
about business, I've got something I call my entrepreneur freedom formula. I was sitting at the coffee shop across the street here about 7 years ago. And as I was thinking about my vision, Tim, and I've got this process I call the ideal average day. I actually learned that from Frank Kern at that event in 2008. He sat there with a little projector, like an overhead projector. He was drawing on the overhead projector this process, and I've used it ever since 2008, and it changed my life. And I'll just think in detail, from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed, every moment that I can. It's written out in my orange notebook over there. What does that ideal average day look like? Now, I don't put a timestamp on it. It's not, this is in 20 years, this is in 10 years. It's just, if I were to wave the magic wand, this is what I'd like my life to be like. What time am I waking up? When I open up my eyes, what do I see? What's the room look like? Is there a window? What's outside of that window? Who's in the house? When I walk around, what's in there? Do I eat breakfast? If I do, what time? What is for breakfast? And as you go throughout the whole thing, and you end up getting into the work side of things, do I go to work? What time do I go to work? Where do I go to work? Do I walk? Do I drive? What am I driving? What's the building look like? Who's in there when I'm in there? What type of things am I working on? We start to say, well, what would give me energy? And a lot of those things, even down to what I would eat that day, it reflects a standard that I have in my mind in that ideal average day. If I'm eating healthy things, it reflects a standard that person has. And so in that, when I wrote my first one 15 years ago, and I'll refine it once a year and I read it often, my work didn't look like me being on a bunch of meetings. My work didn't look like me actually working in any business in that ideal average day. It looked like me owning several businesses, working with great leaders who ran those companies. I was able to mentor them. It looked like me doing some cool projects, real estate projects around town. I get to walk through the project and guide and coach and adjust design or whatever I'm gonna do, and work with people on the next projects. And it always included me coaching some people because I enjoy it and I learn from that too. And so I was talking with you about this before we hit record. It took me a few years to accelerate this because I would always think, well, once I get to this spot in my business or this revenue number, then I'll finally be able to do this part of that vision. And this is about 3 years ago, I started asking the question, why not now? Like all the time, well, why not now? And I would challenge my assumptions, challenge my limiting beliefs and go, well, why can't my work look like that now? It just takes usually a decision and a calendar change, sometimes a hire, right? And so every month I'm just doing a new why not now, looking at that vision and go, well, why can't my mornings be like that? Well, I just need to look at my calendar and say, what am I going to change? And I'm just going to change it. And I'm going to force that vision into reality. And then it's going to force me to solve the next thing down the stream. And so one why not now at a time, the life transformed over a few years. But the business or the work life, dude, was me walking in, looking at how the businesses were doing, meeting with 2 or 3 the company CEOs, coaching them, looking for new opportunities, staying fit, staying healthy, and doing those things. And so that's something I would challenge everyone on here. If you're not clear what that ideal average day is, just grab a notebook and challenge yourself to sit there for a couple hours and just write in excruciating detail.
Yep.
What you see, what happens, who's there, like in as much detail from the second your eyes open to the second the eyes close, even thoughts, put those in there. And as you're reading through it, kind of my rule of thumb, Tim, is if it's light, it's right. I'll work with some people, they'll do that, but they're like, man, the vision's just, yeah, I like it, but it's not fully hitting me. And we'll read through it sentence after sentence. And I'll say, does that sentence feel light or heavy? And if the sentence feels heavy, it's usually because what is on that sentence, they either don't believe or they don't actually want. It's something that I was working with a guy a couple weeks ago.
That's powerful.
Dude,
you know, it's this intangible, like, guess what? Once you've been in business long enough and you meet somebody, you're like, this is somebody I like, or I'm getting bad vibes about that person. And you go with this intrinsic, can't really define it, don't know, but like there's a real gut feeling that after you've been in business long enough, right? Like, what's the book? Blink, I think is kind of about that too. Or The Tipping Point, I don't know, one of them. I think it's Blink. But it's like, go with the gut feeling. And and as something as simple as that, like we're all looking for quantifiable metrics to verify what should I be doing on a daily basis. But sometimes, man, you just got to go with the gut. So as people look at it light and heavy, what are they seeing?
Yep, exactly. And the thing that pops up for me, I always ask people, dude, if it's light, it's right. If it's light, it's right. If it's heavy, ask why and change it and do it until it's light. And if you can get that vision where every sentence feels light and you're like, man, this does excite me. Yeah, there's some things in there I have no clue how I'm going to make happen, which you don't want to make that document a how document. That's a what and why document. Eliminate the how. But you should at least be excited about that, know that it's possible, and it's what you actually want, not what you think society should, not what you think society thinks you want.
Yep.
I was working with a guy a couple weeks ago, and he had on there grow $100 million empire. And the reason we drove through that I drove through that vision with him is because he kept on getting stuck, dude. He wasn't moving forward. He would want to just refine his plan over and over and over and over again before he was driving forward on the plan, and always came back, well, I just need more clarity in this. I just need more clarity in this. I go, dude, we got to go back up to the vision here. So we did every sentence through, and that was one of the sentences that was heavy. And I asked him, and he paused and he goes, no, that's heavy. And I go, why? And he goes, that number, I guess I just thought I was supposed to put a big number in my vision. And he goes, I don't need anywhere near that money to live the life I want. I go, great. Why don't you eliminate the dollar? Take the dollar amount off. Put the feeling that you want. Put the, what would your life be like when you have enough money? Whatever that number is, don't even put a number. And so he adjusted the sentence. And I go, dude, the cool thing is now the number is going to be whatever the number needs to be to live this life. Eliminate that. And he did. And he goes, oh, wow, that just released a burden. And we just kept doing that. And it changed the game for him.
How have you chased ambition while maintaining a level of contentedness in life?
It's a hard one. It's a hard one. I would say, Tim, I didn't do this well for probably a decade. I would say that I outwardly would say, hey, that number on the wall we're planning this next year, right? That new number that's bigger than last year's number, there's a real reason that number matters. And this is probably about 8 years ago when we were doing our annual planning. I wrote the words why up to our next revenue goal every single time. I'm like, well, why does that number matter? And then we would debate it, we would argue it until we either discovered, yeah, that number actually does help fulfill this mission or this purpose, or it enables us to make the next couple hires so we can buy back our time or whatever it is. And we're not going to peg that number until the why is true. The challenge is it's intoxicating as you're hitting growth, right? We hit the Inc. 5,000 list 5 years in a row. And we're the fastest growing software company in the state of Oregon 3 years in a row. We're in little Roseburg, Oregon, dude. We're not up in Portland where all the tech companies are. We were the fastest growing software company. And so when you have those wins, you just want to get more. You get wrapped up in the world. You get wrapped up in what the world validates about you, right? And I did. And so this is probably more recent, the last 5 years, especially as you get those accolades and you realize the next revenue level, dude, the clouds don't part, the angels don't sing. Nothing really changes. A little bit more money in the bank. There's a few more things I got to now manage or think about. I don't have to look at the right side of the menu. I just get to pick whatever I want to pick on the menu without looking at price. And that's a blessing. So grateful for it. But the clouds didn't part, angels didn't sing. I didn't finally hit that moment where I'm like, wow, I can just relax now because I've made it, right? Because there's always a higher number. And so about 5 years ago, just in my own faith journey, honestly, I was just asking questions. I was having an identity crisis, I would say, in hindsight. Because we got an offer, Tim. This would have been right around COVID. You
and I talked at this time. You had told me offline about it.
We got a big offer, and at that time, I considered it for 10 seconds, and it was well north of $60 million cash. Like I could have taken 60 million cash, walked away, and not had any earnout, nothing. Right? A big private equity firm that's well known for buying SaaS companies. And hindsight 2020, would I have treated that different now? Possibly, but I learned a lot over the next 5 years about myself that I don't think I would have if I'd have taken that cash. And so I didn't sell. I didn't recognize it at that time for two reasons. One, I thought we were going to really keep growing the company big time and it was going to be $100 million check 2 years later, but then the market changed, right? The financial market changed. Multiples got cut in half. And so we're starting to work those multiples back up in the industry again. But the second thing was my identity was wrapped around that business because I had grown that company and I was such a face of the company. It was like Carrot is Trevor, Trevor is Carrot. And in hindsight, I recognized like selling the company would have been part of selling myself. And I didn't know what I was going to do after that, even with 65 million in cash in the bank after taxes. Right. And so I started to ask the question.
It seems like there's a lot of entrepreneurs that they put their identity, they stick their identity so much to their company.
Yeah.
I think, was it Tony Hsieh or it was one of these guys? He had Zappos, right?
Yep. Yep. And he
and then
ended up
ended up losing
dying.
his identity, and he ended up, committing suicide, didn't he?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so, um, that's tough, right? It gets really scary.
Dude.
It's real at that point, you know? So,
Identity is so big, dude. It's like, and I'll kind of round out this thought is at that time, as I was thinking about business and thinking about life and thinking about what to do with the business, I just asked that question. I said, who am I really? Like, who is Trevor?
mhm,
Because and I don't know if anyone can relate in here, but as entrepreneurs, one of the reasons, Tim, that we tend to like those entrepreneurial rooms, those masterminds, is because when we're in that room, we have an insanely clear identity. We know we are an entrepreneur
it's a
in
good
that
point.
room. Everyone in this room recognizes Tim as the big multifamily guy, right?
Mhm.
Everyone in that room recognizes Trevor as the carrot guy or the software guy or whatever. The challenge was around that time in my life, I remember being in certain rooms, whether it's at church or a dinner party with some of my wife's friends and their husbands who are not business people. I didn't know what to talk about, dude.
I,
It,
I,
it, it was the weirdest feeling.
mhm.
Weirdest feeling. And at the end of the day, it was because I didn't know who I was outside of work, other than a father, a husband, right? And so that next few years, I was going, man, I need to find myself one consistent identity that gets applied in every spot of my life. And that's where things changed, dude. That's where things
Mm.
changed. Where I
How did
started
you go through that exercise? 'Cause, I mean, I deal with that, man. I
Yep.
go and sit in these circles and start talking to, my wife's friends, and I don't know what they're
Yeah.
talking about, right? Like, I don't know. You can only talk about the weather and traffic
Yeah.
and whatever else so many times, right?
Yeah, dude. So there's a couple things. Some of this is going to work for people and some of it isn't, but I'll just share what worked for me. So the first one is I had asked the question, this phrase popped up in my mind. This is a writer downer for people. Is I was going, man, why is it that I'm insanely successful in company? I'm happy, right? I'm happy. But there's that little void, right? There's that little void that the next goal, the next whatever, um, even if I wouldn't say it, you're hoping that the next goal will fill it,
Yeah.
right? And it never does. And so I said, well, what did I hire this business to do for me? Because I hire employees, I hire contractors, I hire consultants to do things. And if they don't do the thing, if they don't deliver the outcome, like I need to be really clear in the outcome. What is it that I'm
Hmm.
hiring them to do? And if they don't deliver the outcome, what do? You change it. Or if you don't change it, things get worse. If you keep that employee in that role and you don't change it, it gets worse. It festers. Your life becomes harder. And I go, what have I hired my business to do? And is my business doing that? And so, yes, it was doing the financial side of it, and I enjoyed a lot of my work at that time. But there were just parts of it where I'm like, okay, the business isn't fully doing what I want it to do. I wasn't giving myself full permission to fully own my calendar. I still let the business kind of own more of my calendar than I wanted it to.
Hmm.
I felt at times my business hired me at times versus me hiring my business. And so that's the thing we have to ask is like, what do we hire the business to do? And recognize the business is just a tool. Well, a tool to do what? It's the business is not something that you get on this train and you do in perpetuity because you're on the train and it's taking you where it wants to go. But that's what happens with a lot of entrepreneurs. The train takes you where it wants to go. And you just ride it and you try to hold on and you hope that the next stop is the one that actually you can actually breathe on, right?
Yep.
And so I said, no, what is this tool going to be doing in my life? And that's where the why not now questions came up. I go, okay, I'm blessed. We've had success. Let's look at this vision again. And I'm just going to start taking parts of that vision. I'm going to bring parts of that vision closer. Like take the vision, bring it closer. Why not now? Every single month, pull a why not now out and put it in my life. Because then you stop kind of resenting parts of the business that make you feel trapped. You start
Yeah.
to recognize, oh my gosh, dude, I can still run a business and I'm getting rewarded all the time by being able to live the life I want to live. That's the first thing is I had to put business in its rightful bucket. It's a tool and that's it. It's a tool. It's not me. I'm not it. It's a tool. I am independent of my business. I use this tool. The tool doesn't use me. Okay.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, you have to be clear what the tool is being used for. That's where the vision comes in. That's where having a dollar amount comes in that is going to fund the life you want to live, including philanthropy and giving back. That's where you need to find interesting work in it. So you need to make sure the work gives you more energy each day than it takes from you. So you need to delegate correctly, but be clear that that's happening. And you need to find work. You need to find purpose in that work that you truly
Hmm.
enjoy and feel impacts you. That's the first thing. The second thing for me, man, and I'm not going to dive deep on this, but But honestly, I just started reading scripture. What is, I'm a Christian. What does God say about who I am? Because I go, if I truly am a believer, and I would profess that I was at the time, I think I was probably less mature in my faith than I had realized, but I wasn't in the word much. And I go, you know what, man? I've already chased all these goals. I've chased all these things, made tens of millions of dollars. And have an amazing life. Why is there still this little bit of a void there that just can't get filled?
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to fill it with the world versus filling it somewhere else. And at least for me, dude, as I would dive in and just rip through scripture and read great books like Power to Change by Craig Groeschel, I was like, oh my gosh, dude. Once I rooted myself in the identity that God says about me, that's where it changed. Because now I'm like, oh, this is who I actually am. This is the identity that God gave me. I'm the great encourager, and my job now is to go out there and encourage people and really bear the fruits that He talks about in Scripture. And so that's where I just started to go down that path, dude. I go, man, how can I bear these fruits that He literally already spoke in Scripture more to the world, and I could use my business to bear those fruits? And it changed for me, at least.
How would you say for somebody to start going down that path,
Mm.
right? Let's say they're not going to church. Let's say,
Yeah.
and it's not meant to be a religious thing, but
No, no.
to go and figure out what your identity is and have something that's a bigger purpose,
Yep.
right? Maybe it is church, and maybe that's something somebody should try. I mean,
Yeah.
is it going to church? Is it just getting a copy of the Bible and starting to read it? Is it,
Mm.
getting a copy of the Bible and the Torah and the Quran and like looking at
Yeah.
all of them? Is it going to hang out with monks in Nepal for a week? Like
Yeah.
how do they start that spiritual of enlightenment?
Dude, it's a good question. I'm probably not the one to give the authoritative answer on it, but I can give you the answer on what worked for me. I'm a pretty logical thinker guy, so every time I would open up scripture, I would open it up and go like, this doesn't make any sense to me, because I didn't know the context of it. I didn't know the
Mm-hmm.
context of the people, the places, the history, and so at least for me, a person who would say, yeah, I believe in God, but I wasn't actually practicing it, and I wasn't actually putting my intention there. My intention was on the world, not on eternity, and where I could leverage my business for the greater good. And there's a couple books. There's one called uh, the Stranger on the Road to Emmaus. That was the first book a dude just gave me, and it took me 2 years to read it. But it breaks down the logical details of Bible. So for me, I had to understand.
Interesting.
I had to understand, hey, what is the wrapper that all this is in? Because if I open up in an individual page and read it by itself, I wasn't making connections, and it wasn't meaning
Mm-hmm.
anything to me. So that was the first thing, is understanding the context helped me a lot. That book was cool. I think the next thing, dude, honestly, is just being around people who challenge you, being around people who care about you, love you, challenge you. It's all those vices that we have, those things that we're doing on a daily basis that just aren't healthy. The things that if you
Mm-hmm.
keep doing them, they could be destructive if they become a daily thing for you.
Yep.
We've got to figure out what those vices are and recognize that those aren't serving us, and we've got to remove those. And there is scripture on that. It's in Proverbs and things like that. But the vices are what's keeping us from becoming the greater version, whether you're believing, God or not. Like the vices are keeping you from becoming that greatest person. So figure out what those vices are, write them down, and say, how do I eliminate this vice in my life? Whether it's too much phone, there's the Opal app that can eliminate that, and you can put app locks on it and all kinds of things. Whether it's pornography, like lock it down so there's no chance you possibly can get in there and do anything. Okay,
Yep.
remove willpower, whatever it is, whether it's drinking or drugs or, I don't care what it's, staying up late at night every night. Like figure out how can you 100% eliminate the vices, because once you remove that, now you open up space for good stuff to get poured in.
Yeah, you can crowd out the bad stuff with the good stuff.
Exactly. I would start there, get around a good community of people that have shared values going where you want to go. If you're around a bunch of people who are maybe cool, but they're not living the life that in the ideal day you're living, I would start to find a new group of people who are. Not that the other
That
people
is
are
the
bad.
ultimate life hack.
It is.
You know,
It
I,
is.
I I've shared this before, but I'd love to share it with you. Is that I was filling up gas at the gas station in my
Mhm.
car, my Jeep, right? And one of the TVs comes on at the pump, and it's,
Yeah.
one of these influencer ladies, and she goes, a study was just done on how do you change your luck.
Mm.
And she go like thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people, right,
Yep.
were studied. And the scientists went around, they looked at all these different variables on how do you improve your luck. And it 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 culminated all down to one thing. And it wasn't even the choices that you make.
Yep.
It was the people you hang around with.
Dude,
Because the people
100%.
you hang around with will influence the choices that you
Yep.
make, which is why it's
Yep.
so important as an individual to be in the right rooms with the right
Yeah.
people, right? And that's from a business perspective. That's
Yeah.
also from spirituality, mental health capacity, right? In that world.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that my mom did for me when I was going through school. She's like,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to hang out with that kid anymore. That
Yep.
kid and all of his buddies, guess what? A couple of them ended up overdosing on
Mm.
heroin. A couple of them ended up in jail. They're all in dead end jobs. They
Yeah.
like none of them have become it. She's like, you're going to hang out with this group. And I hang out with
Yep.
this group. And I look back at my group of friends, and there's investment bankers and
Mm.
business owners and entrepreneurs and C-level executives
Yeah.
and beautiful families and always good values and making a
Mm.
difference and starting nonprofits and it's like, oh my God, man, this is like we all kind of hung out together in high school, right? Like
Yep.
the friend groups all kind of go. So it's that important of a lesson in all
Dude,
things.
it's
Find the
huge.
right group. If you can
It's
find the right group and make sure your kids are in the right group,
Yep.
everything else kind of falls into place.
Dude, one quick phrase that I started, processing through my mind 6, 7 years ago. A lot of things kind of happened in that window. Is I was trying to make sure I was getting around the right groups, and so I was going, you know what? I love fellowship. I love getting around amazing people, and I've got these 6 Fs. Every quarter, I do a quick audit in my just a personal process I use, and that's one of the things I do. The 6 Fs are kind of like the 6 buckets of life, right? It's faith, family, friends, fitness, finances, and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give a 1 to 5 on each one of those. 5 being couldn't be any better, 1 being couldn't be any worse. I'm going to circle 1 or 2 a year or a quarter and say, hey, I want to put more intention into doing better with this. I found for me when I added fellowship plus each one of those, okay, faith and fellowship, friends is fellowship, family and fellowship. How do I get more? How do I get our friends together more often? How do I get family together more often? How do we have amazing moments in our immediate family with my kids, all the way down? I started to add fellowship to everything. So on the fitness side in 2018, I was struggling, dude, to be consistent. And I just started inviting people when people would hit me up, and I get a lot of requests, as I'm sure you do, to meet. And if I liked the person, I'm like, man, I really would like to spend more time with them, but I just don't have time, and I don't want to go sit and have a lunch meeting. I just don't.
Yep.
And I knew that person was my financial planner. They're probably going to want to talk about financial planning. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about financial planning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go, but you know what? I'm going to be working out at 8 o'clock in my gym in my office, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Dude, you're free to come work out with me. And so I started to create these pods, these bubbles of the 6 Fs, and say, I'm going to be working on improving these things in my life. I want to attract people who want to improve in those same things, that have shared values. Today, dude, this group that I work out with every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have our coach that comes in here in the office gym. It is such a life-giving, fulfilling, amazing group of guys, dude.
That's
And I
awesome.
collected them one by one over about 4 years, and they've all stayed for years now. And they're all entrepreneurs. Every one of them are. They're all believers. I didn't make that a prerequisite. That's just what was attracted, right?
Mm-hmm.
They all show up every single week. We pray together at the end. We work out hard. We do business together. We finish these things, man. You're starting off the day just with life. And so how do we do that same thing in other things, in finances? Do work with people we enjoy to do work with, right? I'm going to the Kentucky Derby in a month with 2 people I do a lot of work with. We're like, let's do an adventure together. So my wife's going, they're going, I'm going, we're all going to the Derby together. So I know
That's
we're over
awesome.
time, man, but 6 Fs.
No, I mean, the
Faith and-
beauty of it is we think we either have to do one or the other. And you found a great way of just merging them both, right? Like
Yep.
you're going to go on a hike and get a workout in, might as well take your kids with you and get a
Yep.
hike with the kids, and now you're getting
Exactly.
family time and fitness time all in
Yep.
together. And, And then you pray at the beginning, you pray at the end, you get
Yep.
some of the faith built in, and all of a sudden you can kind of combine and compound these things on top of each other,
Yeah.
and realize if you're efficient and effective with your time,
Yep.
and planning it that way, you can do
Yeah.
more and
Mhm.
achieve and not have to neglect certain capacities or certain parts of your life.
Yep.
So it's
Dude,
awesome,
I'm gonna
man. Well,
give
hey,
you
I appreciate you being here.
I'm gonna give you one recommendation. It's gonna take 10
Yep.
seconds and you close this thing out. So a practical one on the faith side, pull up Proverbs, read one proverb a day. Write down your notes. I've got a notebook. I've had it for years. I write down my insights in that proverb. It is amazing whether you're a believer or not, dude. That thing can change your life. A proverb a day. Do it for
It's the
3 years.
ultimate personal
Do it for
development
3
book,
years.
right? Like there's not,
Yep.
it's it's literally thousands of experiences,
Yep.
thousands of years of wisdom put into a singular book
Mm-hmm.
that is the foundation for all personal development. So
100%.
no, it's great feedback. Real quick, over the next 12 to 24 months, we meet up again. We see you at a mastermind. We're hanging out. What are we celebrating? What are the goals? What are the ambitions? What are
Yep.
the really exciting things that light you up over the next 12 to 24 months?
Dude, launched my first book towards the end of this month end of this year called Evergreen Marketing on the marketing side. Starting my second book, more on the stuff we're talking about today. So those are going to be exciting.
Awesome.
Next thing is Wave a Magic Wand. My COO has stepped fully into running the entire company. We're working on that transition now.
Why not now?
Man, my kids are getting older, and we're knocking down some of those trips that we've got planned, and I'm continuing to be in the best shape of my life.
I
Dude,
love
I
it.
think those are the things.
I love it.
Yeah.
Great stuff, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for being here. Always a pleasure to chat with you, and you dropped a ton of wisdom. So lots of notes to take. I'm going to go back and rewatch and take some notes. And man, we got to catch up soon. I want to
Yep.
hang out. I want to come out to one of your events or have you out at one of mine, and let's definitely get together. So I
Let's
appreciate
do
you,
it, man.
brother. Thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Hey, well, thank you for being here. Hopefully you got a ton of great value out of this episode. We try to give as much free value as possible across all of our social media platforms. So please make sure that you're connected with us. We are at Legacy Wealth on YouTube. We are at Tim Bratz on all other social media platforms. And we're available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. The best way that you can support this podcast is by just subscribing to our YouTube channel, by liking the video, by commenting on it, and by sharing it with anyone else who might get some great value out of it. So thank you again for being here. We'll see you next Sunday on the Legacy Podcast.